Hi, today we're going to learn about drama, structure, dialogue, and stage direction. In short, we're going to learn all about drama. So what is drama? Drama is a story that's acted out in front of people or an audience. A drama can be a play, a puppet show, a song, or a dance story. In other words, a drama consists of a person or group of people who perform on stage for a group of people. Let's talk about how do we analyze the structure of a play. Plays are written in a special form. It helps you to picture what's happening on stage. This special form is called a script. This is what a script looks like. A script usually contains the list of characters, the lines the characters say, and the stage directions. So let's look at each of these. The play's plot is similar to a novel. It has an introduction, which provides background information. It has some sort of complication or complications, which we call conflicts. And it has a resolution. This is the ending when all the complications, the conflicts, are wrapped up. Here's a chart showing a typical 5-act play using the same narrative structure that you see used in novels. Plays consist of acts and scenes. Think of these as the chapters of the play. There are 1-act plays, like a short story, and multi-act plays, like a full-length novel. Here's an example of the 5-act structure using one of Shakespeare's plays, Romeo and Juliet. You can see that in the first panel we have the exposition, which is the background information. It's like the introduction in a novel. And the remaining panels show the 5 acts of the play. Again, think of them like chapters of the story. The setting is where and when the play takes place. Here's an example of what you might see in a script. Many plays have more than one setting. Unless it's a single-act play, you're going to see more than one setting. The list of characters at the beginning of the play tell who will be appearing in the play. Here's a list of characters that are in this play, and a lot of times you see a description of the character as well. Notice that the names of the characters are in capital letters. Some plays have a narrator. The narrator gives the audience information about what's happening in the play. The stage directions tell the actor how to act in the scene. If you're reading a play, the stage directions help you to visualize what the characters are doing as they talk. What is said is very important in a play. The action of the play is driven through the dialogue between the characters. Again, because it's usually acted on a stage, you don't have all the advantages of having a bunch of special effects and things that you would have in a film, and because usually the audience is watching the play, it's very visual and auditory. The audience needs to see and hear what's happening. The audience isn't reading the script, so they don't know what's going on unless the characters are talking, having dialogue. In this example, Johnny looks up from his bowl of cereal with a puzzled look. And you're going to see Johnny on the stage doing this action. The actor knows to look up from his bowl with a puzzled look. And he's going to say, "Did you hear that?" And Mary says, "Hear what?" And Johnny says, "I thought I heard someone talking in the other room." And Mary says, "I didn't hear anything." Okay, so this dialogue lets us know what's happening in the play. Johnny's hearing something. The theme is the lesson or message of the play. To find the play's message, look for clues in what the characters are saying and doing. What happens as a result of what they're doing, and how are they changing? The theme of the play you'll read in this lesson, the heirloom, is to treasure items that are passed down from generation to generation because they're special parts of people's past. Alright, so let's look at the steps you'll be using to do your apply work. Apply Practice 1 is analyzing the structure of a play. Step 1 asks you to read the first drama text selection. Step 2 is going to ask you what scene number is provided in the scene. So let's have a look at this first text selection. Is an excerpt from William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Without reading it at the moment, we can see the scene number is what? It tells you right at the beginning, we have, this is Act 3, and it's Scene 2. These two little I's are the Roman numeral for the number 2. These capital I's are Roman numeral for what? 3. So, why do you think the drama would need to be broken into scenes? Here's an example of where we have Act 1 shows the beginning of the play, Act 2 shows the middle of the play, and Act 3 shows the end of the play. If we break this particular play into 3 acts, you can see how they've arranged it so it's a beginning, a middle, and an end. So, when you're reading a drama, think about how a novel is constructed with sections and chapters. An act is a part of a play defined by elements such as the rising action, the climax, and the conclusion. A scene is a part of an act defined with the changing of characters. Think about what would happen if the drama was not broken up into scenes, if it was all just, one big thing with no structure at all. Remember, dramas are performed on stage or screen, and the characters need to change clothes, and the stage needs to be changed. Don't forget to provide textual evidence to support your answers, so go back to the passage that we looked at and pull out some textual evidence to support your answers. Alright, step 4 asks you, what is the staging of the scene you were given? Where do you think in this passage you would find the staging? Here it is up here, Scene 2, Capulet's Garden. Apply Practice 2, we're going to identify methods of characterization in a play. And step 5 asks you to read the second drama text selection. We're going to read an excerpt from a play called The Heirloom. We have our cast of characters are Greta and Oma. The setting is the living room of Greta's house in the afternoon. We have a little bit of stage direction here. Greta has been sitting on the sofa, impatiently waiting for her Oma to arrive. She hasn't seen her Oma in several months. Greta can hardly contain her excitement. Shortly, Oma arrives at the house with a small wrapped gift in her hand. Okay, these stage directions, this background information kind of sets the scene for us. As a reader, we're reading this play, we now know what the background is and what's happening. If we were watching this play, we wouldn't hear this information. There might be a narrator who reads this, but if there wasn't, then we would just be visually seeing this on the stage. The actors would take this information and create it on stage. So Greta says, and she's very excited, Oma, what did you bring me? Oma sets the gift on a table. Before I show you, I want to tell you a story. Oma and Greta sit on the sofa together. Did you know that when my mother was a young girl, she attended art school in Germany? There she became friends with a woman named Berta Hummel, who drew lifelike pictures of the children from her village. Berta was so gifted that a man decided to make her drawings into figurines. Oma hands Greta the box, and Greta unwraps the present. This girl was one of the first figures that Berta ever made. Greta, Happy. It is beautiful, Oma. Thank you. Oma. Berta gave it to my mother, who absolutely adored it. My mother gave it to me, and now I'm giving it to you. This heirloom has been in our family for many years. Greta. Greta holds the figurine in her hand, admiring the object that had meant so much to her great-grandmother. I know just where I'm going to put it in my room. This is the best gift I have ever been given. All right, step 6 asked you to identify the two main characters. Okay, since there's only two characters in this excerpt, then we know that the two main characters are Greta and Oma. Step 7 asked you to write down one main character's name, then write down one line of this character's dialogue as it is shown in the text. Okay, this shouldn't be too hard. One of the characters is Greta, and Greta says, "It is beautiful, Oma, thank you." That's an example of dialogue. Now, the next step asked you to pick out another character's name, and the only other character in this play we had was Oma, and what is one line of dialogue that she said? And here's one line that she said. Berta gave it to my mother, who absolutely adored it. Step 9 asks you, how do you know that these two pieces of dialogue are stated by different characters? Well, the authors provided dialogue tags that look like this. These tags show that a character is speaking, and again, notice that the character's name is always in capital letters. Apply practice 3, we're going to analyze the purpose of stage design in a play. Step 10, write down a line from the drama excerpt that is not dialogue. Oma sets the gift on a coffee table. Step 11, how are you able to tell dialogue from the other text present in the excerpt? Well, we can tell the difference because the words that are not dialogue are set off with these brackets. All right, step 12 asks you to write down an example of stage directions. Here's an example of stage directions. Again, we know that this is stage direction because it has the brackets. Step 13, what is the purpose of these stage directions? Why does the author of the play put in stage direction? Well, remember what we said before. The stage directions tell the actor what to do. So in this play, these stage directions are telling this actor that Greta should hold the figurine in her hand and act like she's admiring it. They also give enough information that the actor knows that she needs to hold this figurine very carefully and with reverence, with awe, because she knows how much it means to her Oma. Okay, apply practice 4 asks us to analyze how tone is conveyed in a play. This is an excerpt from The Crucible, Act 2, Scene 2. The setting is the vestry room of the meeting house, where an examination is going on as the curtain rises. Proctor, handing Danforth paper. Will you read this first, sir? It's a sort of testament. The people signing it declare their good opinion of Rebecca and my wife, and Martha Corey. Danforth looks at paper. These are all covenant people, land-holding farmers, members of the church. Delicately, trying to point out a paragraph. If you'll notice, sir, they've known the women many years and never saw no signs they had dealings with the devil. Danforth, glancing at long list. How many names are here? Nurse. 91, Your Excellency. Paris. These people should be summoned for questioning. Nurse, alarmed. Mr. Danforth, I gave them all my word no harm would come to them for signing this. Paris. This is a clear attack upon the court. Hale, to Paris, trying to contain himself. Is every defense an attack upon the court? Danforth hands Cheever the paper. Mr. Cheever, have warrants drawn for all of these. Arrest for examination. Cheever exits, to Proctor. Now, mister, what other information do you have for us? Nurse is still standing, horrified. You may sit, Mr. Nurse. Nurse, I have brought trouble on these people, I have. Danforth, No, old man, you have not hurt these people if they are of good conscience. But you must understand, sir, that a person is either with this court, or he must be counted against it. There be no road between. Mary suddenly sobs. She's not hearty, I see. Proctor. No, she's not, sir. To Mary, bending to her, holding her shoulders, quiet and kindly. Now remember what the angel Raphael said to the boy Tobias. Remember it. Mary, hardly audible. I. Proctor. Do that which is good, and no harm shall come to thee. Okay, so we read that drama text, and now we're going to write down one line that has a specific emotion in it. There were a lot of them in there. Nurse is still standing horrified. Now, these stage directions are telling us that Mr. Nurse is still standing. He's standing up, and he's horrified. And the judge says, "You may sit, Mr. Nurse." So step 15, what is that emotion that should be acted out with this line? So if you're an actor and you're playing the character Mr. Nurse, how would you act out this scene? Well, Mr. Nurse should be standing, so you'd be standing, and he's supposed to be acting horrified, so the actor should look shocked or scared. He should look horrified. Step 16 asks you, how would the performance change if the characters perform this line using the opposite emotion? Okay, well, first you have to think about what's the emotion we're talking about. We're talking about horrified, looking horrified. And what's the opposite of being horrified? Well, the opposite of being horrified would be ecstatic, right? Overly happy. So think about that. In that particular scene, Mr. Nurse is looking horrified. What if he didn't look horrified? What if he looked ecstatic, happy instead? How would that change the scene? So if the actor were to perform this opposite emotion, well, in this case, it would make the performance comical instead of, scary and full of tension. In step 17, it asked you again to do what we did before. How would this actor portray this character in this scene? Well, if we think about facial expression, it should be shocked, and maybe his mouth is open in horror. If he spoke, because he's horrified, his voice would probably be shaky and maybe even whispered. Since he was told to sit, he might act out sitting down and stumble, and maybe he's shaking from fear because he's so horrified. Perhaps he has a hard time finding his seat because he's so horrified. All right, so now we're going to look at Apply Practice 5, which is analyzing the effect of the dialogue on the performance. Step 18 asks you, how does the performance direction impact the way the dialogue is delivered? Step 19 asks, how would the changes in the performance affect the way that the scene is received by an audience? Okay, so let's think about these two things. How the performance would change if the character used a different emotion. We did that in the last step. How the story itself would change if the character delivered the dialogue however they wanted. They didn't pay any attention to what the performance direction, what the stage direction tells them. They just did whatever they wanted. How would that change the story? What would happen to the performance if each actor could choose how they would portray the character in that scene? The performance would probably be different with every performance. Okay, now you're going to try. You're going to go work the steps in the Apply Step Prep for week 2. Be sure to come back to the video if you need to, if you need some clarification on any one of the Apply steps.